right. Hi, everybody. It is Sports Betting Bros. Dave Bontempo and Pete Amato with you. Those of you who chimed in after last week, thank you. We were so happy to hear your comments. And please remember to hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos. Hey, Pete, first thing that I want to talk about, because it's the end of the horse racing season, is point number one, the Breeders' Cup. What we learned from it and what we can take forward into next year. What I picked up was, okay, Citizen Bull won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, which is for the 2-year-olds at a big price. Last year, that winner was Fierceness. When Fierceness came into this campaign, Fierceness had a very good campaign with the Florida Derby, and then it was overrun in the Kentucky Derby, had a good summer campaign, and then came back and came in second in the Breeders' Cup. So all the horses we saw at the end of last year, which was Sierra Leone, Fierceness, Muth, they had good campaigns at different times during the year. So as the horse racing big season ends, keep an eye on these type of horses. Keep an eye on Bob Baffert, who had a great run with the Juvenile. And then what we're finding out is that horses have about a 6-month run of their best cycle. So taking that into next year, they will not be great all season long. But because the horse racing season is so long, get your handicapping instincts around the horses now that you want to watch, and then take them through the Florida Derby circuit and all the Kentucky Derby circuit. A horse might be good in the spring and may not be good in the fall. So that is my take. Point number one coming out of the Breeders' Cup.
How did you?
Number one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say, how did you do on your picks for the Breeders' Cup? Did you do well this weekend?
I only made a couple, and
okay.
I did not. I could not grasp who the right long shots were going to be, so I made it a very slight wagering day. And so I had put a little bit of money on Fierceness to place $4.40. Not bad. I wasn't able to hook him up with Sierra Leone, who all of a sudden had a great race. What I took out of it is everything that we think we know is only going to be good for a certain time. But what I did find out from it was I could not bet with a lot of confidence on that day because I just couldn't see it. So I wagered small. And that was the way to go about that. But again, the European horses dominated and did well with the turf races. So everybody in the Breeders' Cup belongs there. And so that's just a good way to go to look at it. If you have a big hunch, you go. And if not, just enjoy the races. And this time, Pete, I just enjoyed the races.
Yeah.
It was good. Well, that's the Breeders' Cup. We go to segment 2. Pete and I are going to talk some NFL. Sports Betting Bros, we go to the NFL, and one of my bros, Pete Amato, had a good week last week. Pete, you talked about the Ravens playing angry against the Denver Broncos. They did, and the Washington Commanders slipping by as a road favorite against the Giants. And you did well last week, Pete, with the chalk.
Yeah. So we went together. We had 3 wins. We went 3 wins. So we went 3-1. I didn't win I had Browns +2, didn't get that, but we did get you got your Minnesota Vikings at -5.5. I got the Commanders at -3.5. I felt like and with the NFC East game, they're tough to bet on. But with the way the Commanders were playing and the way the Giants were playing, I thought 3.5 was. I thought the Commanders could win by well more than that, and they won by 5. So we took that, and then the Ravens. I said they were going to play mad, and a lot of people were afraid of that 9-point spread against a not very good Broncos team. But I wasn't afraid of that because, like I said, they had a bad week before, and they have the talent to put up points. That team has the talent to put up points, and they played mad. They won 41-10, and that kind of was what I was expecting to happen for that game.
That was against the Denver Broncos team that's been doing some very good things. So that was a major eye-opening thing. Now, Pete, it brings us to something else. How many points is too many points? And we've got examples of this last week. The Buffalo Bills giving 5.5 to 6. They win by 3. They don't cover. Kansas City Chiefs don't cover against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they win the game. And the Eagles giving 7.5 to 8 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they win but don't cover. Now, looking at that last week, I would suggest this to people. I only did this for $10 because I wasn't really sure whether this was worth the whole lot. But you can take two teams down to 2.5 points, which I did with the Buffalo Bills and also with the Eagles. The spread was minus 106. Not bad for only having to win the two games by a field goal. Like I said, you didn't bet a lot because they weren't enticing you with the big number or anything. But sometimes you might be comfortable with the bets in a certain range. For me, a lot of bets between minus 105 and minus 115. I hit a lot of those. And I think for a lot of people, you find out where you're good. So I guess the thing we're talking about is the alternate spread and the alternate spread parlay. And I know that you have used that a lot in the past.
Yeah, and it's something that it makes a lot of people feel more comfortable. And plus, the sports books don't want you; they don't necessarily want you to win the bets. You're going against Vegas, and sometimes creating an alternate spread gives you more of an advantage, and more kind of like an even playing field. Yeah, you have to pay for it in the end. The odds go up a little bit, but if you do parlay those together, which I'm not totally on board with parlays, but these are kind of like smart parlays. They're more safe parlays to where you can do the alternate spreads. It's a good way to keep the odds in your favor and kind of keep the spreads low.
The interesting thing is now, had I bet each of those games separately, I would have lost two games.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They would not have covered. And there was one play in each game with that. And then the thing that you also want to look at when you start to look at certain teams, you look at streaks, and then you look at some bizarre coaching decisions. And we're going to get to that in our next segment. Sports Betting Bros, Dave Bontempo and Pete Amato. Pete, I got so many texts during the Philadelphia Eagles Jacksonville Jaguars game because the spread was 7.5. The Eagles were up 22-0. They did not cover. And one major reason they did not cover is that Nick Sirianni passed up all these extra points, went for two, didn't get them, passed up a field goal attempt, didn't get them. And then the one field goal attempt they made late, which would have saved everything for the Eagles, was from so far out, and Jake Elliott did not get that one. So when I look at Nick Sirianni, even like Dan Campbell of Detroit, maybe to a lesser or maybe to a different type of extent, what do you make of these coaches perhaps being so immersed in data that they're making decisions that are confusing to bettors and tough on bettors?
Yeah, with Sirianni, it starts with being aggressive and kind of borderline stupid. If you're a fan watching the game, especially when you don't kick that field goal, you kind of see how things weren't working when they were trying the 2-point conversions, and he just kept going with it because that's what the numbers said. That's what the analytics said. And obviously the analytics aren't always right. And at some point, these especially these young coaches, they have to realize that. And I guess they'll learn as they become more experienced coaches to go with their gut and kind of how things happen on the field and who's playing, who they're playing, and more of like a natural decision instead of just calling up their analytics guy every time and just going 100% on that. And yeah, it affects sports bettors, whether they win or lose, big time. These new analytics, nobody has ever gone for this many fourth downs or 2-point conversions in the NFL. I mean, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have never thought of them going for fourth down. I mean, if you've seen a fourth down, it would be maybe on the one, or maybe whether it was like the end of the game, they had to get it. So this many changes in strategy, especially big time events in the game, like fourth down or extra points or 2-point conversions, definitely affects the outcome of the game, which affects sports betting because it's like 1-2 points. And usually when you lose a bet, you lose by 1 or 2 points. If you win a bet, you win by 1 or 2 points. It's always razor thin. So that's just how it happens.
In the middle of the Bills and Dolphins last week. Now, when that, yeah, you can make it an alternate line down to 2.5. But as the Dolphins were driving for the tying score and they get the touchdown to make it a 1-point game, I'm seeing all these texts and tweets. Well, they should go for the 2 points right now. And if you're laying 2.5 points, it's catharsis for you. Like either way, I'm going to lose by 1 point or win by 1 point. And fortunately for anybody who was laying 2.5 points, then you had a chance for the Bills to get the last second field goal, which they did. So I think what we'll have to take out of this analytically for people is you have to really kind of come up with a profile as to which coaches like to gamble at the end of games. Come up with your own list. Like pitchers have batters, the book on them. We'll need to come up with our own book on coaches and who likes to go for that 2-pointer when they don't want to have the tie. And I think that's a revealing thing for people.
Yeah, it's just a new strategy to kind of have to research. You're researching the offense, defense, injuries, and now with how much this is affecting the outcomes of the games and the outcomes of winning or losing a bet, this is another kind of leg that you have to kind of worry about now. And you have to research is the coaching decisions and how they're affecting the outcome of the games and razor thin margins. And when you see a guy like Sirianni, I remember Doug Peterson was a very aggressive coach too.
Yes, he was.
He didn't get challenged as much because a lot of the times he kind of got it right. He did well. And Sirianni, to be honest, before this game, hasn't really got too much backlash on his aggressiveness because the tush push. It's been so successful. So if they do have 1 yard to go, I can see why. Like when they got that penalty after the touchdown, they took the field goal off the board to go. Their tush push has been so successful. When they do it, especially within that 1 yard, I understand why he does it. But yeah, when he's taking 3 points off the board, that's some of the things you have to start to kind of put in your decision making when you're making these bets now, and that's brand new. I mean, that's a brand new strategy that you have to realize.
And I'm going to suggest something to people. I'll probably start compiling it myself. But when a team misses a 2-point conversion, start thinking about what happens to the momentum of the game. And does the team that got scored upon then come down and score for your in-game betting? There's something about momentum, about not making a 2-pointer that changes the emotional flow of a game in many cases. And this is something that I'm going to wait for a stat on this. I'll probably develop my own book on it and see if there is an edge to carve out there somewhere. We talked about on our first show, finding your edge. And that's what I'm going to try and find going forward, Pete, and see if there's a market for that. Because it seems to me that when a team misses a 2-point conversion, the game changes and the other team gets a little bit of a spark.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all about momentum. NFL is a huge momentum shifting game. And if you can, if you're on top and you have that momentum, you don't want to let it go. And if you're winning the game and you're going down the field in offense and you're doing basically everything you want to do, and then you go for that 2-point conversion and you miss it, it gives the other team just that little bit of spark. And it kind of reminds me of in the NHL when you're up by 3 goals and then you go out and fight somebody. You're giving that other team that little bit of kind of spark. Why would you fight somebody when you're up that many goals? You don't want to give them anything to hang their head on.
Don't let them wake up. Well, data has become a big part of sports betting, and I'm going to check in with some of the icons of the industry. Sports betting bros, Dave Bontempo and Pete Amato, and so happy to be joined by Wayne Kimmel, major sports investor on the cutting edge and has gained numerous accolades The list of this guy's honors a mile long out the door, and also at the forefront of the sports betting industry. Wayne, thanks for joining us. Very much a pleasure to have you with us. And for some people who would not be familiar with this, with you, talk a little bit about your major interest in the sports betting industry and some of the big things about yourself.
Well, Dave and Pete, it's great to be on your show. So excited, for what you guys are doing together. This is amazing for the overall sports industry, sports betting industry. Congrats on putting this together. Well, for what we do at 76 Capital, my team and I are investors in the amazing, innovative entrepreneurs who are trying to create the next thing across the sports industry, using the latest technology, data, analytics to make the industry of sports even better. And that's what we're all about at 76 Capital. And, can't wait to share some of the great stories of some of the great entrepreneurs and individuals that we've invested in across the sports betting industry. And man, the last 6 years have been incredible for the sports world.
What do you think the edge that bettors look for now, when we are seeing that in-game betting is about 50% of the market now? And of course, in an NFL game, you can bet on the next play, you can bet on the next drive, which is something, Pete, you and I have talked about taking your gut from what you see in a game and applying it to an oncoming trend. Wayne, what about the role of the analytics and the growth of in-game?
In-game is such a big part of the future of the industry, and it's happening. It's literally happening as we speak, and it's been one of the reasons why we've invested in companies like Swish Analytics. Why we were so excited about being the backers of the Musburgers when Brent Musburger and Brian Musburger started VSiN with their partner Bill 80. I mean, we were a 24-hour sports betting media network talking about the ins and the outs of the games, all the everything before the game, during the game. I mean, I always tell people, like, if you really want to bet, that's a network that you got to watch, because you have these experts who can share with you what are their ideas before the game, but also at the same time while the games are going on. You kind of have that on one of your screens, and you're watching the game, and they can kind of help you along through that. VSiN was an amazing run for us. We were part of the group, the kind of what I would say VSiN 1.0, where we sold that to DraftKings, and then DraftKings had it for a couple of years, and now the Musburgers have it back, and it's like VSiN 3.0, and it was great. I got to interview Brian and Bill at the G2E conference a couple of weeks ago in Vegas, and they were sharing with us all their plans and all the things that they're going to go do. But it's just amazing. Like, you get to have some of the greatest experts who, from the betting side of the world, and then also from the sports side and from a GM side of things, like with Michael Lombardi and sort of his views on the game itself. Like you were just saying, Dave, like, helping you think about what's going on in the game and how the game's moving in one direction or the other, and how you can actually get an edge for what you're doing as a bettor.
Yeah, I think
Pete. Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I think talking about that gives you like kind of a connection that people weren't like used to before, a connection to industry leaders and experts that you would have to read about on a newspaper or the day after on an article. But now you kind of have it live, where they have these shows during the game, and kind of these experts that have been doing it for years can kind of give you their opinions and stuff, and it's live in game, kind of right there, just like as if you're hanging out and talking with your friends. Sometimes you just kind of want that, like, brotherhood or whatever. If you're watching a game by yourself and you just want somebody, you texting with your friends about the game while you're watching it. But this is kind of like a thing where a community can kind of like share their interest and kind of talk about the betting and the numbers, and also about the actual game, and kind of go back and forth in the sports rants. I mean, sports trash talk and stuff like that. I think that's
absolutely, Pete. You're 100% right. I mean, it's taking all of that. It's taking what you see on social media. It's using the latest technology, and that's what we love, right? Investing in these companies that are using the latest technology to be able to provide you with the lines to be able to bet in game, to be able to come up with the really cool parlay, whether that's a player prop plus a game result, right? I mean, there's so many things that you can now, put together. So it's like there's so much that you can do. It's such an exciting time. We're in this industry that, back in 2018, it was under a $10 billion industry, just basically betting on sports in Nevada. And now this year we'll have, the handle's expected to be over $150 billion this year. And it's unbelievable how fast this has happened. 38 states plus DC just within the last 6 years. The opportunity to actually, as this continues to grow, as more and more people have the opportunity to actually really start to figure out what their strategy is going to be, when the fact that now more and more people are able to have access now to do this, right? So there's a number of the top players. Everyone talks about FanDuel and DraftKings as the leaders, but at the same time, you've got BetMGM and Caesars and Bet365 and Fanatics and ESPN Bet. I mean, they're all really doing really unique and differentiated things. We'll see kind of how does this all shake out over time, but it's really exciting to see. Each one of these apps has gotten better and better and better. They all have different types of experiences, different types of rewards, and it all comes down to what do you want to do, right? I mean, what we're all about, as investors, we want to make this incredibly safe as well as fun. We want to be out there, allow people to have more fun when they're watching sports and they're engaging in all of this. That's what it's all about.
Sports betting bros, Dave Bontempo and Pete Amato. We wrap it up with Pete's picks for the NFL this week. What's your pick, Pete?
I like the game. I like the Falcons Saints game. Sunday at 1:00. I like the Falcons at -3 here. I think the Saints are falling right now. I mean, they just fired their coach, a 7-game losing streak, and I think things are going to get worse before they get better. Also, Chris Olave is out with a concussion. McKinstry is also questionable, and Marshawn Lattimore was traded prior to Tuesday's game or Tuesday's trade deadline. So I think Falcons at -3 here is a good pick. The Falcons look like the best team in their division. They had a big win. They're 4-0 in their division actually, and they're actually 6-1 in the NFC following last week's game, 27-21 defeat of the Dallas Cowboys. So I like the Falcons at -3. Also for this game, I like the over 46.5. I think the Falcons have scored more than 30 points in 3 of their last 5 games, and probably would have done the same against Dallas if they took their foot off the gas a little bit at the end of that game. Saints are banged up on defense. Again, Lattimore is gone. They really don't have much there. And the Saints should score some points as well. Derek Carr's back from an injury of his own, and he will be going up against one of the worst pass rushers in the NFL. That's one of Falcons' biggest kind of worst things with their team. So I think there's going to be some points scored in this game. So over 46.5. And quickly, Vikings at the Jags. I like home underdogs, and I like the Jags +4 here. They don't have a good record, and their opponents only covered the spread once in their last 6 games. I feel like their record doesn't really show their ability and their talent. A lot of these games that they played good teams, the Eagles, the Packers, and they push these games close down to the wire. So, and I feel like they're kind of Trevor Lawrence and company are improve every week and look to be underrated as a home dog in this contest. So I like the Jags +4 in that game.
Okay, Pete, I like that too. The Jags have covered 3 straight weeks.
Yep.
So, you try to ride a little bit of a hot trend regardless of their big record. And the Saints and the Falcons always seems to be close. We'll see if either team breaks it open this week and you like the Falcons. Well, I'd like to thank Wayne for joining us. We had a lot of fun on Sports Betting Bros. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to get notified about future videos. And for Pete Amato, this is Dave Bontempo saying so long from the bros. See you next time.